Hey, I'm Grant, and welcome to Stay the Channel for October 8th. So, just some things to talk about. I am back to working on my Ruby on Rails stuff. I'm about that far through the book if you want some actual reference. It's coming along. I had to spend some time to actually getting back into the flow of things after not having touched it for a while. But I've definitely learned some things through work for just working in my IDE that have really sped that up. So again, I'm hoping to have something out by the end of the year, and that should be pretty solid because I think I went and I looked, and I haven't actually touched my old site in over a year. And really, that was just because, like, by the time I made it, I found it too hard to support, and I found it way too hard to update. Like, I was entering a lot of the same stuff over and over. And part of this is to create some solutions for that because I know the things I need. I don't need this big generic solution. But if I build it myself, I can tailor it to myself. So I'm excited to get that going, but it's going to be a little bit of a slog to get through it in all that time. But I think I can definitely finish it by the end of the month. I have about like 5 chapters left, I think, and I'm going to try and get through maybe about 2 a week, and I think that should be some pretty solid progress. Otherwise, some other projects I have going is, so I guess I want to talk out, I put out the making of digression bar little video. I put that out on Friday. It was pretty solid. I wish I had more time to actually make the actual shots. A lot of that was done pretty much very first take, and I didn't really know the style I was going for until I got into editing. And I really would have changed how I filmed it and what I filmed if I knew I was going to cut it like that. But I think that was a good experience just because I don't usually make these constructive edits. I usually do more of like a broadcast edit where you go in and you pull everything together, and I should say a broadcast edit where you just like chop it up. You don't really change anything. So I think that was kind of interesting, but I'd like to do more of that. And as part of that, like I said, I've been trying to do more of the live action. That was just like one little foray into that where it's like, okay, can I just like film all these general ideas of these scenes and see how it goes? So hopefully more of that to come. Otherwise, I'm looking into doing a potential show with some stuff here in Omaha. That should be an amazing opportunity if it works out, but until I know more, I don't really want to say too much, but it should be super cool if it does. So other thing, stuff going forward, podcast still going to be coming out every 2 weeks. Hopefully that's going to be nice and not super hard to edit. Going to wrap up the Ruby on Rails stuff because if I can get that site going, I think that's when I would feel more open to do cooler things, if that makes sense. Because right now, like this whole like venture I'm doing is very tied just to YouTube because that's what everything's on. But in the future, I would love to be able to create like things to go alongside it. So like the podcast, I want to be able to have a list of all the links we talk about. I want to be able to say, this is the time the next one came out. This was aired on this date. It recorded it whenever. These are the people who are on it. Maybe you could like search them or something. Just like fun little things that I can do on a site that I can't do with just YouTube. Or for example, I would love to do like corrections. So if I talk about a recipe or something like that, I would love to be like, hey, here's an article about that I can write and put on my site. Or do like a text breakdown of how I make the podcast that goes alongside the video one where I can go way more into depth and post like pictures. That is all stuff I would love to do, but I have hours and hours on this stuff before I can get to that. Otherwise, definitely looking at different things I can do to really start promoting the channel. I think the channel's had an issue where I make a lot of stuff that's just kind of things that I want to help my own skills. It's never really had a focus. Like for a while it was about Dead Rising. Now it's kind of about a podcast. At some points I love to stream Destiny for like a year and then I stopped that. And now I stream D&D every Wednesday. There's not really any crossover, and it's definitely something I'd like to tackle, maybe with some live action stuff, because I feel like that's something that's a lot more evergreen, that's a lot more relatable than, say, specifically, here's just OSR's content, here's just Dead Rising content, here's just my podcast. I want stuff that's like, okay, this can be something I can build off. This can be the base. I can still do those forays into like random little videos, but this would be the base. Like I've always been trying to find out what that would be. Is this like central show that I could do that would build up the channel, if that makes sense? Something to base everything around on. Like if I had to say, what is the channel about? I'd be like, it's this. Right now, I would say it's basically just my personal channel. That's really what this is. I put whatever I want up. But I wouldn't mind maybe doing a side channel where it's like, this is specifically about this thing. This is specifically like live action shorts. This is specifically my OSR's channel. This is specifically my gaming channel. Something like that. And building on there. And I still don't know quite what it is, but I think that's a very important step I need to make, where if I want to ever like have this turn into something that's like a meaningful part of my life, where it's like, oh yeah, you know, it's not huge, but say I want someday get to the point where like I have 1,000 subscribers, there's like this much income, which gives me so much leeway to do these things over the course of the year. I would love that. And right now I don't necessarily know what the path is, but I would love to get from point A, where I'm at now, to point B. And that's kind of what I'm looking into, especially with really trying to understand and learn the craft of like editing and filming. It's not something I have any background in, but I'm trying to actually sit down and understand that stuff and do stuff properly rather than just kind of throwing things out there and hoping it sticks. So that's really my week. Basically, it's going to be a lot of coding. I don't know if you can see that out there. It's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be a lot of getting super frustrated where you spend like 30 minutes just trying to get through one page. And that sucks no matter how much programming I do. It always is going to suck. So that's what I have ahead of me. Probably film digression bar this Friday. Hoping to get it done in one day. That's going to be the real test. If I can get it done in one day, then I think I can do some more fun stuff and actually maybe start producing that more, if that makes sense. Like actually giving it like different segments is something I've always thought would be fun, or like a more rotating cast of people, or even just like, hey, let me do more effects in the podcast because I can spend time making them instead of spending time converting them and stuff like that. Or like, oh man, I would really love to get back to one of the early things I used to do when I only was doing the podcast, so I had time for this, was just to throw like little videos on the end or like little jokes in the last like 20 seconds. I kind of like that, and I always like that feel, but sometimes it's not as easy to find something to put there, and ultimately by the time I can put something there, I'm just so done with editing the podcast because I'm like 10, 20 hours into it. I don't want to go like search through all the footage to find one little thing to fill 20 seconds. I usually just let it end. But hopefully, if it's easier, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. I have this fundamental belief that things should be easy. It's something I think that drives a lot of my programming is if you do it well and you understand it, it should be simple. And that's just something I truly like believe. It should be simple, should be easy to understand, and that's the sign you're doing it right. So that's been another big long ramble, as I always do. As always, I'm Grant. You can get a hold of me over on Twitter. It's at taking4grantd, or my email, which is grant@taking4grantd.com. I'll be back again next week. Bye.